Hey, have you registered for the Culture Proof Conference 2026 happening at the Ark Encounter and the Creation Museum?
Look, you need to register now. We want to see you there. There's a lot that's going to be going on. Great speakers, great times of worship, great fellowship, man. You want to be there.
Your registration includes 1 day at the Creation Museum and 2 days at the Ark Encounter.
Wow.
Plenty of time for you to see all of the sites and get enriching and equipping presentations from speakers like Dr. Kathy Cook, Ken Ham, Brian Osborne, Dr. Del Tackett, Abraham Hamilton III, Israel Wayne, Amy Warren, yours truly, everything provided goes according to plan. There's so much. You are going to be jam-packed, but you're going to love it. Check it out. Go to cultureproof.net. That's cultureproof.net. Get your tickets. Remember, there's still a payment plan that's available. And then also, when you decide where you're going to stay, choose the hotel where we and all of our speakers are staying, where breakfast is included and a time for us to get to know each other. We think of this as a family reunion every summer.
That's right.
You can be a part of it. Learn more by going to cultureproof.net. That's cultureproof.net.
Yeah, once again, that's one place, a big place that the conservative movement had a major error. They did that with her. They did that with homosexuals. You know, it's almost, and they called it, you know, letting people into under the tent, like the big tent. Got to expand the tent. And so the pressure was on to expand the tent so that we can be more relatable to all these different groups. But when you expand that tent, you lose something. You lose what you're trying to conserve. What are you conserving anymore? And so again, we don't conflate being conservative and being a Christian.
That's right. Those are not synonyms.
Not at all. But what has happened is that people have been allowed in, and because we're trying to, you know, just be a little softer to this group. You know, we got to show that we really are diverse and all this kind of stuff. And you end up letting in a Candace Owens who sees an opportunity. She sees this as, oh, they need me. I'm Black. And if I say what they want me to say, I can bank on this.
Literally.
Literally.
And this is our Deceiver series. And on this episode of the podcast, we are talking about Candace Owens's very own sort of like Southern strategy. Remember hearing about the Southern strategy? The Democrats said that the Republicans underwent this major shift where all of the racists then flooded into the Republican Party.
Right.
And the Democrats were somehow the like non-slave holding. It was just this major shift that happened. And I think that's sort of what Candace Owens actually did. I think she went through a type of Candace strategy where she realized she had kind of like burned some bridges in her group with the people that she was most comfortable around. And she thought, if I'm going to be successful in the way I want to be successful, I'm going to have to jump here. And conservatives, they bought it. We're going to talk about it. This is Culture Proof.
Every single stronghold, we pull them down.
Thanks for checking out Culture Proof. I'm Miki.
And I'm Will.
And this is episode 2 in our Deceiver series, where we're looking at Candace Owens and just holding her up against the straight edge of scripture, asking questions about why we need to be warned about everything that's coming from her. And again, I don't know why. I feel like it's so important for us to continue to run a highlighter over the fact that it is not just because she's attacking Erica Kirk that we have turned our focus to her. We actually started turning our focus toward her when we found her to be destructive to the body of Christ, misleading members of the body of Christ. And I would say trying to cause a religious shift even among the members of the body of Christ.
Definitely. She has been trying to cause a religious shift. She was known to say things like, you know, Catholic gang, you know, just this whole thing of, you know, hating on what would be termed, I guess, evangelical Christians, and how, you know, those people are they're not real and all this kind of stuff. And saying that, you know, the teachings and the doctrine are from Satan, and allowing that to be said on her show. in which we had a discussion, a debate with the person who said that, because she did not push back,
Mm-hmm.
E. Michael Jones. And, that's when we really were like, man, hold on. We have to warn the body of Christ about Candace Owens, because if you look in the comments, there are many Christians who say things like, Candace is doing God's work.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
praying for her because, man, she's doing the Lord's work. No, she's not.
No.
No, she's not.
And that's part of the deception that I feel like has really invited us into the discussion.
Right.
People don't know how to discern what a real Christian looks like. Like they don't understand that there is a reality that if you are called of God, if you are regenerated, you've been given a new heart by the Holy Spirit, it's supposed to look a certain way.
Right.
And I think a lot of people look at Candace Owens and they believe that she got saved when she became a conservative. And there are a lot of conservatives that'll look back on her shift and say, oh, she backslid. But still, there are a lot of people who believe that her conversion actually came upon her declaration that she was a conservative. And what we want to show as we continue with our timeline is that she was insincere from the beginning, and the signs were everywhere. But more than that, the Christian should have been more discerning. Just because you have somebody come poking their nose under the tent talking about, I'm here and I just want to be a blessing to the cause, it doesn't make it so.
Even if they say that they're a Christian, we have to see fruit.
That's right.
We have to see fruit. Yes. And so when you inspect the fruit, you don't see it. You
No.
don't see it there.
No.
And so she can say all she wants. I'm a Christian. I'm this and that. But man, I don't want to hear all of that. I want to see that in action. And man, from the things that we can see, it's not there.
No. And if you think about it, she didn't even lead coming into the conservative movement with being a Christian.
No.
That actually came later. And it's interesting, again, the work that she is doing to try to show some sort of inconsistency in Erica Kirk, or like she's denying her past. It's one of those things where we accuse people of the things that we're guilty of, because the same thing happened for her. Like she came in, it was like, I'm a conservative. And we're going to show you some clips. She hadn't even like baked all of her ideas yet. Like a lot of them, you put a toothpick in it, it was still kind of runny in the middle. But conservatives were so thirsty that they were just like, oh, this is Christianity. She's done got saved. And it's like, no, actually she didn't. That came later. And you I say that came later. I don't know that her salvation came later, but her interest or her affinity for evangelicalism came along with her growth in playing the role of the conservative.
Right.
This is what they value around here. So this is how I have to be.
And that's a problem. That's a problem on our end when we conflate being conservative with being Christian.
That's right.
So you have the people that will come in and it will be like Christian light or a type of, they'll name the name and feel like, hey, yeah, I'm a part of that, but they're really not.
Right. And
so we're so easy to like bring people in and say, yeah, they're Christian like us, man. They're speaking the same thing that we're saying. But man, you have to look closer. You have to see and examine the fruit. And if you examine the fruit, you don't see any fruit there.
You don't. You really don't. In fact, you would see what would mark a person who's still outside of the faith.
Right.
And people can be upset with that all they want. You don't see fruit there. Before we get into content, we want to say a huge thank you to the premier sponsors of the Culture Proof podcast. That's bjupresshomeschool.com. I'll tell you, we are constantly talking about how we need to be discerning in the world that we live in. But if you do not have a root in Scripture, if you are not rooted in Scripture, you will not be discerning. The only way that you're going to pay attention to what's going on in the world is if you know truth, right? That's how you discern where there is an error, because you notice that there was a departure from truth. That's what we're trying to do with our children. We're not just educating them at home. We're discipling them and equipping them to live in the world so that in their cultural context, when they come up against the masquerades, when they come up against the role players, they recognize that this is actually not truth. And the only way you can do that is that you have a biblical worldview. And that's one of the things that we love most about the curriculum that we've chosen to use with our children. That's bjupresshomeschool.com. We don't educate at home because we're afraid of bees. We don't lie about spending hours educating toddlers. Let me just tell you this. If you have been concerned thinking maybe you can't educate your kid at home because you heard somebody say, I spend hours homeschooling my kids and their oldest kid is like 4, 5. First of all, not so. Okay. We're looking at a good hour with Timmy, who's 5,
Mhm.
of engaging educational content that has biblical worldview woven into it, even for the 5-year-old.
Right.
Like we're not waiting around here. Check them out today. Our friends over at bjupreshomeschool.com/culture-proof. When you follow that link, it'll be your way of letting them know that the Addisons sent you.
Mhm.
Before we dive into the thick of the information, I do want to make sure that we, again, because we're talking about how to discern, like, what is a real believer? What is actually a Christian? How do we know?
Right.
And the Bible says this in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 17 through 24. So this I say and affirm together with the Lord, that you walk no longer just as the Gentiles also walk, in the futility of their mind, being darkened in their understanding, excluded from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them, because of the hardness of their heart. And they, having become callous, have given themselves over to sensuality for the practice of every kind of impurity with greediness.
Mm.
And you'll see that this will be sort of like a theme of what we talk about as we look at Candace Owens. And again, I'm not trying to read Candace Owens into the scriptures, but what I'm trying to provoke people to is seeing that there are certain things that you start to discern when you spend time in God's word. You start to say, okay, these are the characteristics of a Christian,
Mhm.
and these are not. I'll continue reading. Here's verse 20. But you did not learn Christ in this way.
Mm.
If indeed you have heard of him and have been taught in him, just as truth is in Jesus, that in reference to your former manner of life, you lay aside the old self, which is being corrupted in accordance with the lust of deceit, and that you be renewed in the spirit of your mind and put on the new self, which is in the likeness of God. Which in the likeness of God has been created in righteousness and holiness of the truth. One of the things that I keep saying as it pertains to Candace Owens is that we have not seen the fruit of the Spirit. Like
Mhm.
we have not seen the evidence of a person who is converted. If you follow the trajectory, and again, if you're using the same means that she's using, right, you can see a pattern that's building here. And that's what we tried to show the last time. I think we left off with the settlement that she got from her high school. That again was a type of come up. I mentioned
Mhm.
how it was interesting to me that the dad was present again. There's some people who would say the dad didn't leave, like the dad was there. Like there's some inconsistencies in the
Yeah.
story. One of the things that I thought was really interesting was that the grandfather, who was such like a, I don't know, such an influence in her life, was not present. When the NAACP got involved and all of these things. But what I'm going to show, tonight is
Mhm.
that the granddad actually did show up later, at a hearing. So we do know, and this is years later, that the granddad is out in public. So I'm just there are some things that make you wonder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Point that I'm making. All right.
Yeah.
Back to our timeline here. Here's what we find in 2009 to 2011. Candace Owens is enrolled at the University of Rhode Island, but she dropped out after 2 years. Okay. One of the things that people have asked questions about a lot is like, how do we believe her when she says she has like 2 degrees? I've not been able to find anywhere that she has 2 degrees. I did read that she went back to school
Mhm.
later and got her degree, but that she actually did drop out of school. So I'm fine with that. That checks out. All right. What's interesting is that in this time frame, so after she drops out of school from 2012 to 2014,
Mhm.
she moves to New York to pursue a corporate career. Now, according to Candace Owens, she worked for Vogue magazine, and she claims that she worked for a private equity firm. All right. One of the reasons, and we're going to get into this in just a little bit, because in 2015, she says that she launched Degree 180,
Mhm.
which she did. And that's one of the things that's really troubling to me about this whole time frame, because I feel like there was so much publicly available information about her character,
Yeah.
about who she actually is, that a lot of conservatives didn't even bother to check out.
Mhm.
And I will say, even of like for us at the time,
Mhm. I
We-
didn't know about that.
we didn't know about that,
No.
but we didn't discern right motives from her
Right.
from the beginning.
Right.
Like even in the thick of the conservative movement, we felt like something is a little bit off about
Exactly.
her, right? So in 2015, late 2015, Candace Owens launched Degree 180. All right. Here is a clip of Candace Owens, sort of, as the founder, the CEO, you know, which that's
Yeah.
sort of why she keeps calling out Erica Kirk, because this is something that she herself has wanted. Okay. She does a Q&A where, as the CEO, you can ask her whatever question. And so here, we wanted to play this clip because I think this is very interesting, especially in light of some of the content that she herself posted on this Degree 180 website, which, let me just say, it is burdensome to read some of the things that Candace Owens wrote between 2015 and 2016. The girl was nowhere near what you would call a conservative at all. And I mean, socially speaking, I don't care what her economics were. I don't care how she felt about government, any of those things. I mean, as it pertains to holiness and righteousness and truth, nowhere near a conservative. But a lot of people just saw somebody new and shiny and black. And they were like, come on, you can come with us. All right, here we go.
Is Candace Owens. I'm the CEO of Degree180.com, here answering your questions. When I was in high school, the guy I was dating had a girl in his class, or a girl that he had gone to, I think, middle school with, that worked at my gynecology office. She was just kind of like the girl behind the desk. And I guess maybe she saw a file pass that had my name on it, and kids like drama, so when you see someone's name, you're like, oh, I know she goes to this gynecologist. So she told my boyfriend that I had herpes, and he believed it, and he freaked out, and it was like the most insane thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. That's like a terrible thing for like an 18-year-old to have to go through, like explaining to your boyfriend that you don't have herpes. But yeah, that was kind of the craziest thing I've ever heard about myself.
Okay, so what's really interesting to me about that is that the question was, what's the craziest rumor that you've heard about yourself? And that's the craziest rumor that she heard about herself, that she had herpes. Now, the thing that jumped out at me about that clip was that as I was reading through the website, okay, you go back on way back and all of this stuff is archived. I was reading through all of Candace Owens's articles. Some of them I can't read, and some of them I'm just uncomfortable reading the titles. Okay. So she's got one where and I'll be careful, but she's got one where it says, I'm so sorry, ladies, but we can never stop faking certain things in private places. Okay. So you'll have to use your imagination. I'm sorry. Okay. I am not going to read most of this article, but there was one part that jumped out at me that I thought, wow, she is openly talking about her promiscuity. And this article was written in January 2016, where she's basically telling women they cannot stop performing certain ways in the bedroom. Okay, this is from Candace Owens. And then this is what she writes. She writes, I've faked it a lot, more times than I'm comfortable admitting. And by more times than I'm comfortable admitting, I mean like 6,214 and a half times, in fact, by, she says, and a half times. She says, in fact, by societal standards, I'm something like an aspiring actress. Okay. Now, what's interesting to me about that is that if you say the craziest rumor that you've ever heard about yourself is that you have herpes, and how the story came about is that like this girl happened to work in my gynecologist's office, and like, I don't know, saw like my name on a file pass in front of her and was just like, oh, I'm just going to tell people she has herpes. Maybe that's true. I don't know. What I do know is that conservatives didn't really care. Like that was not something that conservatives were interested in. And as a result of that, Candace Owens would later find an entry point into the conservative movement.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's something. And look, again, man, and it's sad because what I get the feeling of is that she, like you said, shiny, new, black. And so when that came across the conservative table, it was like, oh, we don't have one of those, Oh man, we need to get one of those. And here's one right here.
Yes.
But not even conservative. And so you're going to see some shifting. Like,
yes.
Oh, that's going to get me where I need to be. Well, I'm conservative. I might, and you'll hear her say, I think we have the clip, her talking about, not socially, so that's certain things when I think of conservative, I think of, and I know it's changed over time, but social conservatism was a thing that was a staple
It certainly
as as
it
w-
it
as
would
well
have
as
been.
fiscal and
Yes.
but man, so that tells me that I see some opportunist vibes
Yeah.
going on here.
Yeah.
And especially if she's writing stuff like this, she's showing that
And there's
she's,
more.
and so it's like, when did you become conservative?
So let me never. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know. Was that rhetorical? Okay, that was a
Yeah,
that
but
was a
you
that
can
was a
answer.
rhetorical question. Hey, now is the time to meet all of your nutritional needs as you're going into this new year and you're making some resolutions that probably will die down by February. Don't let your health be one of
Please
them.
don't.
One company allows you to go from your multivitamin for 40 plus to a prenatal within a
Ah,
month's time.
yeah.
I'm speaking from personal experience. Some people said we should blame the vitamins for this pregnancy happening so late in life. Well, I'm not worried. I'm not concerned. I'm on my prenatal vitamins available through We Heart Nutrition. All of their products are third party tested for potency. That way, you know you're getting the nutrition that you think you're getting.
Mm.
And let's just be honest, at this point in my life, I need all of it.
Great
And
vitamins,
probably some more.
omega-3,
That's right.
stuff for bone health.
Yes.
Man, multivitamin for
Mhm.
men. It's for the family. And so,
Wholesome
man,
balance for women.
yes, yes. So you can get all that you need right there. We Heart Nutrition.
These are the supplements that we love and that we trust, and we know that you will love them too. Check out our friends at weheartnutrition.com. Use the promo code cultureproof and save when you order. That's weheartnutrition.com. Use the promo code cultureproof and save big. Yeah, no, I don't. Here's the thing that bothered me as I was reading through these articles on the Degree 180 website and just trying to think through, like, okay, you know, what drives a person to have these kind of core convictions, and can these kinds of core convictions be suspended by just thinking, oh my goodness, the liberals are the ones who are my enemies? Like, I don't think so. Here's another article from Candace Owens. This one was written in September of 2015.
Mhm.
And again, it's on the Degree 180 website. Okay. This article is how I scored an Adderall prescription without so much as a doctor's evaluation, 3 easy steps. And then she goes through to tell her readers how to get a prescription for Adderall without needing it, like how to fake it, right? So step number 1, she says, just live in America. Just live in America. Step number 2, then she says, consider deeply why you want this prescription. And then she goes on to explain why she needed this prescription for Adderall. By the way, this is going to be something that she claims she became addicted to Adderall while she was in college,
Mm.
which, let me say, I think is very important. Okay. I think when people are drug addicted, I think it has an effect on them. Now, praise the
Yeah.
Lord, God can renew us
Yes. Yes.
if you invite him to.
Yes. Right.
Okay. If you
Right.
invite him to. But here's what she writes about. And again, why am I reading this? Because it shows character. It goes
Mhm.
to show character. And I think I had a slide with some of her articles in there. Okay, yeah, this is from September 2015. How I scored an Adderall prescription without so much as a doctor's evaluation. 3 easy steps. Number 1, she says, live in America. And then step number 2, consider deeply why you want this prescription. As many of you know, this medication can be highly addictive. If you're going to take this sort of risk, please be responsible and at the very least have a legitimate reason as to why you need it. For me, it was because I had 3 thesis papers to write in college that were due in the same week. Outrageous. And wait for it, my favorite fraternity ever was throwing a party that weekend. So obviously I couldn't manage both. I was in irrefutable need of something that would speed my performance up.
Wow.
And then this is number 3. She says, just ask for it, man. Now, I want you to pay close attention to this last section of the article here. Because again, I believe this reveals something to us about who Candace Owens is and who she knows that she is. Okay. Step number 3, just ask for it. So I waddled into a random doctor's office and saw the nurse lady. You know, the one that comes in before the doctor and takes your blood pressure, asks your medical history, et cetera, et cetera. And she was like, "Why are you here?" And I was like, "I just need to refill my prescriptions, ma'am." And then she looked me firmly in the eyes, imploring, "Which ones?" And I was quick on my feet with an Nasonex Advair. She goes, "True, true." She puts in parentheses. Then brief pause and Adderall. She puts in parentheses, lies. She then asked me how many milligrams, and I was game time ready with a 20 milligrams instant release twice a day. She wrote it in my file. And then when the doctor, you know, the one who comes in after the nurse came in, she proceeded to listen to my lungs and then wrote me all of my refill prescriptions. One of the things that I have come to notice, and one of the things that's repeatedly being said about Candace Owens, is that she's very quick on her feet, that she is adept at adapting. She knows how to do it. She knows what the moment requires of her, and she kind of shows up for that. She finishes off this article saying, "I then became addicted to taking Adderall every midterm and final season for the rest of my college career." And she goes on to say, "You're probably wondering the most important question about this article, and that is whether or not she was able to go to the frat party." And so, and that was the most important thing. And she was like, "Yeah, she was able to do it." She then says that there's going to be a part 2 to this, where she discusses how blanked up uses the F-bomb, which is why when you fast forward and Candace Owens is dropping F-bombs about Ben Shapiro, that's not something that's like, "Oh, and I can't believe this is forced." No, that's just her.
That's something that's in her.
That's her.
That's her.
That's exactly who she is, right? When I read this article, and as I read other articles, I was just like, "Oh my goodness, this girl was a toxin that was allowed into the conservative movement because there are a lot of people who felt like she could say the things that we can't say."
Yeah.
And I think if we don't recognize that, we are doomed to repeat those types of errors.
Yeah. Once again, that's one place, a big place that the conservative movement had a major error. They did that with her. They did that with homosexuals. You know, it's almost, and they called it, you know, letting people into under the tent, like the big tent.
Yes.
Got to expand the tent. And so the pressure was on to expand the tent so that we can be more relatable to all these different groups. But when you expand that tent, you lose something.
Yes.
You lose what you're trying to conserve. What are you conserving anymore? And so again, we don't conflate being conservative and being a Christian.
That's right. Those are not synonyms.
Not at all. But what has happened is that people have been allowed in, and because we're trying to, you know, just be a little softer to this group. You know, we got to show that we really are diverse and all this kind of stuff. And you end up letting in a Candace Owens who sees an opportunity. She sees this as, "Oh, they need me. I'm Black. And if I say what they want me to say, I can bank on this."
Literally.
And
that, and I'm going to show you these clips because you mentioned expanding the tent, which, by the way, I would recommend that people go and watch the podcast episode we did where we talked about the infiltration of the conservative movement by expanding the tent. Candace Owens was not the only one that was let in. Also, your Dave Rubin's, and we've got several clips from Dave Rubin, as he was one of the first to sort of like sit down with Candace Owens and learn a little bit of her backstory. We want to play several clips for you and show you how sometimes if you let people talk long enough, they actually say the thing that they think they're hiding. They actually reveal that. And the same was true for Candace Owens. So you've got her from 2009 to 2014. She's working, she's in college for 2 years. Then she's working in New York. And then she starts her own business because she wanted to be a CEO. Guys, she wanted to be a CEO. That is so important for people to understand because it goes to what is fueling the jealousy and the bitterness that is coming from her, right?
What we see now,
Exactly.
you know, you have someone who all their, I guess, career wanted to be a CEO. I want to be a CEO. And so she's looking at what's happening now with Erica Kirk, and like, she was just given that. Like, you know, is she qualified to, so her thing is like looking at her diploma. She said that she had this, and she said she graduated. And all of it goes to this lady's not qualified. I should be
Oh my
the
goodness.
one
Ugh.
who is the CEO.
It
And you
just
can
is
hear it.
given Satan.
Man,
Like
man,
I should be, I will
man,
ascend. Like it
man.
just is such a, it is and again, people don't hear it because a lot of people lack discernment and a
Mhm.
lot of people are after sensationalism. And I saw in some of the comments, like people were like, well, what do you do with the lies and what do you do with the inconsistencies? Well, I would ask the same thing of you with regards to Candace Owens.
Mhm.
What do you do with her lies? And what do you do with her inconsistencies? What do you do with when she misremembers something? And I'm going to show you that here, you just say, well, maybe she left that detail out, or maybe she recalled it later. If you give grace in that area to one,
Right.
then you
Come
should
on.
give grace in that area to both.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then don't. Right? Like
Right.
then you've got to call into question what you can actually trust that's coming from Candace Owens. So in 2015, in April of 2016, Candace Owens launched a Kickstarter fundraiser for a website called Social Autopsy. The website was supposed to fight online bullying. Now, Candace Owens claimed that because of what happened to her back in 2007, where the NAACP got involved, she felt like if she launched this website that would publicly dox
Mm.
kids who were bullying other kids, it would teach them a lesson. Now, again, I want you to think about the roots of like,
It's like the same stuff going on right now.
if we publicly shame people
Mhm.
who we don't like, it's going to just, it's a controlled environment. It's going to just teach them how to behave on the internet. She did another Q&A for this Kickstarter, okay, which by the way, the Kickstarter raised like less than $5,000. But she did another Q&A where, asked the founder some questions, okay? So Social Autopsy, it's going to be a thing where it's going to publicly dox young kids. It's going to teach them to be careful with what they do online. Because there's nothing like public embarrassment, and exposure to teach kids to be careful with what they do online, to take something and make it permanent and attach their face to it, and just all of those things. But here's the question that she's responded to. Again, pay attention to what she's saying, because she's actually revealing quite a bit.
Ruin someone's career and take away their livelihood over words that are typed on social media. Again, that question terrifies me. There is just such a gap. People think that the internet is like a video game, that they can go home and say whatever they want over social media and then get back to real life, which is why he's using this word livelihood. That is not the case. You are affecting somebody's livelihood with your words. When you log on the internet and you tell someone that they are disgusting, that they are ugly, that they don't deserve to live, that they are fat, you are affecting that person's livelihood. You are making that person sad. You're making that person depressed. The internet is a real thing, and just because you're typing it does not make your words any less real. What you type on the internet is a part of your livelihood, and we stand by that and we stand firm on that.
So the person was trying to figure out, like, how is this good that you're doing this, that you are potentially ruining somebody's life? Like,
Right.
how is this good? And Candace Owens's defense is that, well, what you say online, that is your livelihood. Like you've already ruined your life. Like what we're doing is saying you need to be held accountable for what you're. Can you imagine if that same standard were applied to Candace Owens today, where she routinely pulls private citizens into her public discussions and changes their life, not necessarily for the better?
Yeah, man. Her own site or whatever that is, business, would indict her. Like she would be, because she's the main one. That's exactly what she's doing, and so I think she has conveniently forgotten all of this that she stood for in the past. We're just trying to hold people accountable because she's doing the exact same thing. And so yeah, it's crazy.
So when she launches this Kickstarter, people pick up on it, right? They discover it and they're like, you can't do this. You can't dox children. And Candace Owens is like, I don't even know what doxing is. What are you talking about? I just want to expose people's personal information, attach their name and their face, and like,
Right.
where they
Doxing.
go to school. Like,
Well, that's what it is.
it is really fascinating to watch. Want to play several clips and just kind of talk around these clips here, because she's sitting across from Dave Rubin,
Mhm.
who again was another nose in the tent that we just welcomed in, as a, I say we as in the conservative movement, as a homosexual who eventually married his partner and adopted 2 children. But again, that was one of those things that you're just like, the Rubin report and all these things. So here is Dave Rubin sitting across from Candace Owens, kind of like, this is like, let's get to know Candace Owens.
Mhm.
Okay. Let me just say, and I want to be careful here, because I want people to understand this. I do believe that a person can genuinely have a change of heart. I
Mhm.
do. I believe a person's eyes can be opened.
Yes.
And I certainly believe that in eternal ways.
Mhm.
But if you listen to Candace Owens when she's asked about how she became a conservative and all of those things, there's so many gaps there that certainly 2 months after she started posting content, and we'll talk about her getting into that, the red pill black and all of that, 2 months after posting content with all of this information taken into consideration, I would say she should not have been in a leadership position at Turning Point USA.
Right. It's like putting a novice,
That's exactly
in
right.
charge. And I think about the lady who recently she's gotten out of politics because of her relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Now, the thing is, she's like, I'm not doing it anymore, like done. And yes, we should continue to I think watch her and see fruit. See if there's fruit there. But I think with Candace Owens, we're far ahead to see now that she's still doing the same.
Yes.
Actually going back into doing the stuff that she was against. And even, the way that she's acting is like, man, she, like they say, like transitioning back, like she's going back.
She's a detransitioner.
Yeah,
Is that, what
and so
Jerry Boring said. Yeah.
the thing is, it's like you have evidence now. You can see the record.
Yeah.
And you can say, hold on, man, has she ever like really changed, or was this a come up?
Yeah. Man, 100% the latter. Like 100%. This is why I say it's a type of Candace Owens Southern strategy. The Democrats wanted conservatives to believe that all of the racists had flooded into the Republican Party, and that they were all of a sudden the champion of, like, the black people. Okay. When in reality, what we continue to see is that no, those racist views are still present in all of the policies that you put forth. These people are too stupid for this. These people could never do this. These people need handouts. All of these things, it continues to reveal the heart.
Mhm.
I feel the same way about Candace Owens. She tried to flood into the conservative movement because she saw a watering hole drying up for her in that rabid liberal environment that she was in. And again, if you listen to her, we're going to play the clips, you're going to hear her say this in so many words. All right, here we go. This is Candace Owens sitting across from Dave Rubin. She's starting to make the rounds. Fox News is picking up on her, and so she's becoming a thing. So it's like, well, let's get to know Candace Owens. Here we go.
Instantly. I mean, I became a conservative overnight. I realized that liberals were actually the racists, that liberals were actually the trolls. And then at the very same time, 'cause you have to remember, this is April 2016. Trump is on the screen saying that the media is lying, that CNN is fake, that all of this, it all began to resonate with me because I realized that everything he was saying was true. So I no longer bought into this idea when they were calling him a racist, a rapist, a white nationalist, everything. I bought none of it because I knew that the media hired hitmen. And they were doing the most ridiculous hit job on Donald Trump from start to finish of his campaign.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to really talk about Donald Trump. He really wants to know how Candace Owens actually became a conservative. Like, how did she change in her views? And one of the things that he's going to get to is that when she got pushback on this Kickstarter, sort of like a safe place for her to fall back on, is it was a racist attack on her. Here's this black girl trying to do this tech startup, and you guys won't let me be great. You guys won't let me even do my tech startup. Why are you pushing back on me? Why are you guys being such haters? So what Dave Rubin is trying to get to is like, okay, so how did you make that connection? Like, how did you understand that it was a media hit piece? And of course, because Candace Owens is great, because she's fantastical, she recognized it immediately. Here she is.
Together.
Instantly. The second the Washington Post called me and Caitlin Dewey was trying to cut off the legs of the funding, I realized what I had to go back and watch the Kickstarter and say, what did I say that set this off? And I realized it was that one line. They thought that I actually, and then her saying, you're going to ruin everything. I pieced it all together instantly, and I realized that my friends were my enemies and my enemies were my friends, and the only people that covered the story extensively and accurately were the white nationalist Breitbart. Fascinating, right?
These evil alt-right
white racists covered a black girl who was trying to do a tech startup being attacked by the media.
Because that was a racial moment. And here's what's really interesting. Racial moments seem to follow Candace Owens.
Yeah.
Candace Owens in her short
High
life
school and
has had so many racial, it's like MK Ultra. Racism surrounds her like a shield. I mean, everywhere Candace Owens goes, there's somebody doing something to her that is racist.
Right.
But here's the thing though, when you I think it was this great sage, Judge Judy. I think Judge Judy said, when you tell the truth, you don't have to have a great memory. So Candace Owens actually does neither. She doesn't tell the truth and she doesn't have a great memory, because you have so much evidence. It's her favorite word. You have so much evidence that shows she's not keeping up with what she's actually saying, right? Because while she claims that, she's had all these different racial encounters over the years, when she decides that she's got a new venture, and that venture is conservatism, all of a sudden the racism is going to go away. All of a sudden she's not going to have these experiences. And again, we have a clip for that as well. Okay. But I want to continue with her talking to Dave Rubin, because again, I find it fascinating, the stuff that she says and the position that she takes. So they try to take down Social Autopsy. They try to take down her website, her doxing website. The liberals try to take down, and they all turn on her. There's the Washington Post wanting to do a hit piece on her and all of this stuff. And so what she realizes is that her livelihood, her hope of being that boss babe, that degree 180, all of that is gone, because I'm writing to a specific audience. You can't let me just show here. Okay. I have so many of these articles, man. My brain is hurting reading these. You can't write in the conservative movement articles like this. This one was written January 2016. I think affairs are romantic. This is Candace Owens. Okay. So remember, when you anger the liberals, and Candace is very sharp. So she knows this. She knows. So when you anger the liberals and they turn on you, the watering hole has dried up for you. So you've got to move on. Okay. You got to find greener pasture.
And the conservatives made it easier for her. So she saw, Breitbart and the people, they actually are like putting my stuff out. Like so then now it's like, I see, because she's smart.
Yes.
She's like, ooh,
this is where I need to be.
Ooh, they
low
need
barrier
me
to entry.
I give them some credibility. Maybe, I give them like, man, they can say, no, we have Candace Owens though.
Yes.
We're not all racist, and we have Candace. Man, it was like a perfect setup for her.
And she took it. And watch what she says, how, again, because she's investigating Erica Kirk. And so she's got these questions about these missing years. And she says, it's almost like she took a year off. Now she says, it's like Erica Kirk took a year off to learn how to be a Christian. It's almost like this huge psyop that happened. But watch what Candace Owens says. So again, when people say, man, she's like projecting, she literally is, because that's what she did. She saw that she was no longer going to be successful as a liberal. And so she literally took a year off to learn conservatism so that she could and it's technically, if we want to be technical, It wasn't a year. Can show you on the timeline, maybe 9 months, but give or take, whatever.
Mhm.
But she wanted to learn conservatism so she could reinvent herself.
And she's smart, so you didn't need a whole year.
No, right. That's right. It's a Candace year. Okay. So here we go. This is her talking about how she had to take a year off.
Happens now. You did a hilarious video about what it was like to come out to your parents. But when you started talking about this stuff publicly, or did you have a little period first where you were talking about it privately before you started doing the YouTube thing?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it really was a very scary thing to go through, and it was terrifying. And you have to remember, I was a private citizen then. So when media does hit piece on you and you're a private citizen, that can ruin your entire life. You can't go out and get jobs anymore because they naturally believe whatever they read. It seems incredibly controversial, and people don't want to deal with controversy. So I literally took a year off to just kind of rebuild as a person. I was like shell-shocked. And I knew that I wanted to enter in, and I had to. I felt like it was incumbent upon me that I understood this, this fascinating thing happened to me. I felt like it happened to me for a reason. So I wanted to sort of re-enter the market as someone who was more informed and who could potentially red pill other people.
Hold on. We'll go back to it.
Man,
we're going to start it again. Go ahead, Will the Great. Go ahead.
No, I mean, she said it all. This was a business move. So she took this time off. So I had to go back, and so I had to recreate. So
she could re-enter the market.
So that's a total business move. She strategized where she needed to be to position herself to be the voice
for Black people. Which she didn't. Man, okay.
And to help you white people who they're calling racist.
That's right.
All the time. Y'all have me now.
Mm-hmm.
So
I speak jive.
So y'all can all point to me. But we have Candace Owens. We not. Look. See? She's pretty a darker skinned Black.
Oh.
It's not, we went all in.
Man. Listen, we're gonna play the clip again and let her finish here. But what's really interesting is that she again took a year off, because when you get these hit pieces written about you, she says, this is career ending like this. And I was a private citizen. And so just think about this. So I had to regroup. I had to take a year off and sort of get myself together so I could re-enter the market. And then with the hope that I could maybe red pill other people. Okay. I have been red pilled, but really it's like, so I could tell the Black people how they need to be.
Right.
But what's really interesting is that in 2015, she had an article on Degree 180, where she was the CEO. Okay. This is excuse me here. I'll be very, very careful, but this was the title of the article. WTF is acting white, and am I guilty of it? In this article, and this is something that I find really fascinating. In this article, she talks about being 12 years old, and because of two things that her mom required of her, two things that her mom did. One, she says that her mom chose her name well, and that her mom made her read books. So she was smarter than her classmates. She says by the time she was 8 years old, she knew she wanted to be a writer. She seemed to be in accelerated classes in her elementary school years. So I was reading this and I was thinking, man, I guess the Nora Roberts thing, I guess maybe she was reading this kind of stuff because it's in her writing. She thinks, she thinks affairs are romantic. A lot of straight women are settling down with gay men, and here's why. Oh, whoa, now that's uncomfortable.
Especially with the rumor mill.
Fast forward, because in 2022, a certain accusation will be made about one such George Farmer. Now, but let me stay on track here, okay? Because we're going to go back to this clip. And again, Candace Owens had to figure out a way to reinvent herself. How do I put myself in a different stream of income flow? How do I get in this different market?
Man.
And it took her about 9 months to figure that out. Okay.
Wow.
And she's going to be the champion of everything conservative, getting it to the Black people. Okay. She's going to be like the syringe, getting the medicine to the Black people. When she wrote an article back in 2015, talking about how she realized that, she had to stay up on Black culture. Guys, I'm not making it up. Let me read just a little bit here before we go back to this clip.
It's funny because as you're saying this, I'm seeing what was said about Barack Obama,
I thought the same thing.
that he had
Oh,
to
my
go
goodness.
and learn, how to be black and how and what needed to be done. And he had all these handlers. He had people, it's like almost like a mirror image. Like, so she had to go and really keep up and get, that's crazy.
So crazy. Hey, if this podcast is a blessing to you, would you please leave a 5-star rating? Let us know that this is really kind of meeting a need that you have. If you want to leave a comment, leave a review on the podcast if you're listening. And then also over on YouTube, please share the videos, comment under the videos, give it a thumbs up if it's a blessing to you. We really do appreciate it. It helps us do what we do even better. We appreciate that. The things that she doesn't realize she wrote in this particular piece, like, I think if she had thought about, maybe down the line, things being forever archived on the internet, maybe she would not have written it,
Probably not.
Anyway, but here she goes. She's talking about making her way through elementary school. Then she says, then came middle school and the game shifted. Now we're able to be placed into different groups based solely on our test scores. This means that we went from diversified settings with students from all over the learning spectrum into more targeted groups with children that were developing at our same speed. For me personally, this meant being planted into a classroom that was overwhelmingly Caucasian. There were exactly 2 other Black students in my class. I hardly noticed and would have never dreamed that a classroom demographic would trigger issues. Fact, and this is what she writes, fact, if you surround yourself with, read, if your teachers place you with all white people, you can instantly become not Black enough. Now understand what she's saying here, right? For 12-year-old Candace, she learned this by being halted in the hallway. She says, I tried desperately to avoid by every architectural, there's no exit here, alternative, and told things like, you don't match, or who wears white after Labor Day. So she's talking about being policed for how she dressed in school. Then came the actual physical pushing and bumping in the halls because, again, most of her classmates were white. But here's the peak of the humiliation that she writes about. One day in the cafeteria, she says, at this time, the rapper Fabulous had exploded onto the scene with a smash hit called Holla Back. And it was all anyone was singing ever, except for me. Because by the time I was in middle school, J.K. Rowling had unleashed the magic of Harry Potter into the world. Man, she really loved Harry Potter. I mean, she mentions this all the time. She talks about how this was something that she and her mother were reading together. Okay, so she's 12 years old. This is something that she and her mom are reading together. But on this particular day in the cafeteria, I was sitting there, as I always sat, with a group of white people, read my effing classmates. And I'm just editing. She is very vulgar. Very vulgar. And like all of these posts, okay? She says she's diagonal from a group of Black girls. One of them, the leader of the pack, called me over to the table. Too terrified to decline the offer, I obliged, turkey sandwich in hand. Candace, if I said to you, holla, what would you say back to me? She goes, blank, using the F word. It was a trap, okay? I would probably say hello, I replied. Laughter, a total eruption. The kind of belly gut laughter that stand-up comedians strive for, except I wasn't a stand-up comedian. I was a 12-year-old trying to make it through lunch. The correct answer was holla back, youngin', and I would never forget it. On the bus ride back home that day, I resolved that I would make more of a conscious effort to be Black. Who says that? Who writes that? Then who pursues a path as like a type of outreach to Black people where you're like, I'm going to learn how to be Black. Like you, okay, but wait, there's more. She writes, I can learn Ebonics. I can learn to holla back. I learned every lyric of that terrible effing song and many more like it. To this day, I make strides to stay in the know of dumb popular songs and dances. Soldier, Superman, check. Want to watch me whip Nene? I got it. Now, what's important to me about this piece is, again, when she says she took a year off to sort of like reinvent herself, it was all of it. It wasn't just conservative views, but it was like a love for the blacks.
Mm.
It was like, it was
Right.
all of it. Guys, it was all of it. And I think this is one of those things that when we talk about a fraud, when we talk about someone who is presenting a facade, a fakery,
Mm.
if you will, that's what we're dealing with. So there never will be a principled, a strong position because there's never been one.
Mm.
There's only been opportunism. Like, how do I get ahead? How do I get my bag?
Wow. And it's crazy when I think about it now, why she was able to talk to black folk the way that she did.
Because she was detached.
Right. And now she's talking to a lot of people, but it's a lot of, white folks that she's speaking to. Like, she got into the conservative vein, which was more white than black. And now she's back in her kind of like element of who she likes to talk to. But for that stint, she had to, talk to people that she didn't really even want to talk to. Like, that she didn't grow up being around or really knowing, but it's my mission that they would be red pilled.
Because red pilling them was a fast entry point
Mhm.
for me
Mhm.
in political and public stardom.
Yes. If
Do
you
you
have a whole movement, like a whole thing where you are the face of it, you and Tatum, but you primarily,
Mhm.
man. So this is your lane. That's why she was upset when Charlie was like, "You sure you want to marry him? Wouldn't that mess
Wouldn't
up
that
your
hurt your
Wouldn't that
brand?
hurt your what's her brand?" Man.
Okay, let's go back to this clip
Wow.
where Candace again just reveals that she has no principles, and she took a year, the same thing that she accuses Erica Kirk of doing,
Mhm.
taking a year off to learn how to be a Christian. She took a year off to learn how to be a conservative, and most importantly, how to be a black conservative. Here we go.
It was like to come out to your parents. But when you started talking about this stuff publicly, or did you have a little period first where you were talking about it privately before you started doing the YouTube thing?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it really was a very scary thing to go through, and it was terrifying. And you have to remember, I was a private citizen then. So when media does hit piece on you and you're a private citizen, that can ruin your entire life. You can't go out and get jobs anymore because they naturally believe whatever they read. It seems incredibly controversial, and people don't want to deal with controversy. So I literally took a year off to just kind of rebuild as a person. Like, I was like shell shocked. And I knew that I wanted to enter in, and I had to. I felt like it was incumbent upon me that I understood this, this fascinating thing happened to me. I felt like it happened to me for a reason. So I wanted to sort of re-enter the market as someone who was more informed and who could potentially red pill other people.
Yeah. And then, all right, so what happened? Like, so you tell your parents.
Yeah.
The video you did is great, but like, what kind of reaction did you get out of your parents?
I really didn't sit them down and tell them. I've always been kind of a wild child. My parents, I've always had my own mind, my own thoughts.
Yeah.
I've never been a person that like my parents would expect to have to sit them down and tell them anything. I do what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
And again, I think that's very telling as well. Like, I think a person describing herself as like, I'm a wild child, I've always just done whatever I wanted to do. I think you can see, in the time that it took for us to be in public work, in particular working within the conservative movement, to maintain Christian conservative values. That was our lane. That was our focus,
Christian.
right? That Christ would be preeminent.
Right.
And the time that it took us doing that publicly for well over 15 years, Candace Owens shows up in 2016, and from 2016 to like 2024 or 2023, whenever it was she left the Daily Wire, she had gone through like 3 of the largest conservative entities that were like on the scene.
Yeah.
Turning Point USA, PragerU, and the Daily Wire. Like, that says a lot about a person and like what their goals are, what they're actually aiming for.
Yeah. And that clip that we just listened to again, man, becoming Candace Owens. That's exactly,
Yeah.
she just revealed that moment when she became Candace
Yeah.
Owens, and
Yeah.
now it's on.
Yeah.
She's gonna ride on the Trump train, the MAGA. It's coming through because that was a big move of black folks. Yeah, like, man, Donald Trump. Yeah, so she was perfect timing.
Yeah.
I think she saw it and
Yep.
she was like, "Ooh, I can speak and I can communicate. I'm quick with it,
Yes.
man, and
Yes.
I can go, man, be on these campuses and be with this is the lane and that lane she saw, she carved it out, man.
And I think it's going to be important to, we've got another episode coming up where we'll actually show how within 2 months of her doing the Red Pill Black YouTube stuff and all of this, within 2 months, she's working for TPUSA.
Mhm.
And both she and the late Charlie Kirk say that he hired her in about 5 minutes
Mm.
after watching her speak on a panel. And I don't want to give too much away because we'll play the clip on that. That'll be the third episode, which maybe will be becoming Candace. Like, I don't know. There's something that's got a ring to it that I
Man.
kind of like. But it is just amazing the things that happen. And again, I think she is a type of Frankenstein of the conservative movement
Mm.
that again, once she just took off, you can't restrain that. Like you can't, I mean, it's alive. It's alive. And that's what Candace Owens capitalized on. Hey, are you looking for an engaging, hands-on summer camp for your teens this summer? Then we want to invite you to the Culture Proof Missions Week Summer Camp at the North Carolina Refuge happening July 26th through the 31st. You've got a full week of missions focus. That means that these kids are going to be putting into practice what they learned. So it's sort of like the lesson and the lab all happening in the same week.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. There's going to be some service projects that they'll get to do, but also we'll have some great biblical worldview teaching as well. And just great times of fellowship, eating together, all those things that you love about camp. At the same time, there'll be a lot of learning going on and a lot of challenges, and I mean challenges to bolster our faith. So truly, we would like for you to be a part of this. It's a Culture Proof Summer Camp. We do it every year, and it's an awesome time.
Yeah, I think this is like our 6th or
Wow.
I hate to say 7th year hosting summer camps. We bring our entire family, and so we are inviting you to send your kids to a summer camp that's going to enrich them in more ways than one. Of course, there's going to be lots of time for fun and leisure, but there will be equipping and there will be hands-on training out in the community. Learn more by going to ncrefuge.org. That's ncrefuge.org. Click on summer camps. Registration is open right now. Choose Missions Week 2, hosted by us, the Addisons. It's the Culture Proof Summer Camp. We would love to see your kids there. Show one more clip here. Well, actually, 2 more clips from this sit down that she had with Dave Rubin as he's trying to get to know who she is. And watch as he asked her about conservative issues. Okay. So she took several months off to, she says, rebuild, reinvent.
And apparently that's still going on a little bit in this. Like she's still forming Candace Owens.
Yes,
she's still
that's
becoming
exactly right.
Candace Owens.
Man, yeah. I'm sorry, my wheels are spinning, but yes, yeah, I see where you're going with that. Here we go. Here's Candace on conservative issues and stuff. Here we go.
Change within you politically when you say you went from being a liberal to a conservative? Like, did you change on economics or on abortion or weed or gay marriage or?
When I think back on it, I don't even know that I ever really was a liberal. I didn't care about politics.
Yeah.
So you have to think about this. I'm just a girl that was trying to pay back my student loans. I wasn't involved in politics. I didn't really know what being a liberal meant, what being conservative meant. I think at the end of the day, I was always a conservative. I'm pretty rational. I'm very fact-based. In terms of, I will always value economics above social issues and that sort of thing. Because I understand that should take a back seat, obviously. You don't want to become a third world country,
While screaming about pronouns.
Exactly. So I think I was always a conservative or more conservative in that regard. But I started really deeply considering politics, my positions on everything because of that experience.
Yeah. Where are you on
and before we go back to him, he's going to follow up on where she is on the social issues. She started considering politics because of what happened with the attack on social autopsy. because the liberals came out and were like, you can't do this. Like, what are you doing? And she was like, I thought we were all like together on the same page. And like, why are you coming after me, the black girl? And they were just like, we don't care. Like, what are you doing? Right. And so Candace Owens is going to reinvent herself because of that and find her entry point into conservative politics.
Yes.
Okay. Now, and here's the point that I think should matter to every Bible believing Christian. So Dave Rubin is going to say, so where are you on all the social stuff? So yeah. Okay, limited government. Okay, yeah. You care about economics and all of that stuff, but where are you on the social stuff? Here we go.
I think I'm specifically what?
Well, like gay marriage or
I support gay
abortion and
marriage.
stuff.
Yeah, I support gay marriage. I'm not really sure about abortion. I don't really have a position on that just yet. I think through that a lot. I have so many people and friends that have been through it.
Wow, look at you, a conservative saying I don't have an answer on.
Notice that he doesn't say, wow, look at you, a conservative that supports gay marriage. Notice that doesn't grab him as a wow stop. The wow stop is, wow, a conservative that doesn't have an opinion on abortion? Wow. No, because she doesn't have an opinion really, because it hasn't really been programmed for her yet. She is coming online as a conservative. So the little multicolored wheel is still spinning in some of these areas. Okay. And it's like, wait, so where are you on the social issues? I am like, what? Tell me what those issues are. And while you're at it, tell me how I'm supposed to feel, because I've just newly rebuilt myself as a conservative. Guys, this should embarrass us.
That interview is the one that's a very important interview, the one with Rubin, because it shows the transition from Candace Owens, liberal, I'm out here cussing and doing the autopsy thing, and till now they have rejected me. I see this new lane. I'm not really well formed in my opinions yet, but I know where I'm headed, because I can see that it's going to be lucrative for me, beneficial for me, that I can be famous in this lane.
Yes.
I can be the voice. I remember people, Christian conservatives, calling her our Harriet Tubman and stuff like that.
Goodness, would anger me.
I'm like, I remember, man, people were like, man, Candace Owens, like, and it's like, I'm talking about Christians. And they would swear up and down, she's a Christian, man, like us. And she had to play that part. And now, she's Catholic. It's like you see where these transition points. And this was a very important interview right here, because you saw where it kind of all started. It was beginning. It was like she was forming into this person, not fully formed yet. And the questions that he's asking, she don't really have all her settled beliefs. But that's that direction that I'm going in, and I know this is going to be good for me.
Wheel spinning. And this is one of the softest interviews that you would ever imagine. If you're going to lock arms with someone and say, hey, we are a part of a movement, and you ask them a basic question on like, okay, where are you on the social issues? And they're like, man, the cookie dough is still, you know what I mean? Like
right.
the batter is still like, come on.
Which ones?
What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? I won't embarrass my then 3-year-old, meeting a Disney princess that she didn't care a whole lot about and trying to flatter. And the princess, she's like, oh, I love you as a princess. And the princess is like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, I love all your songs. And she's like, which one? And my 3-year-old at the time, who was like, that's why we don't flatter people. We don't tell lies. We don't tell lies, right? It dishonors God. And then you might have a moment like this. But again, she goes, oh, all of them. But again, you're not a 3-year-old. You're not a 3-year-old. Okay, let's move on, because we've gone on too long here. And last thing I want to point out, and then we'll save the rest of it for episode 3. Okay. Here's Candace Owens talking about how she didn't like being bullied as a Black person. She felt like this was really her story. And how are you going to come and try to claim my Black card, which again is a revelation that she felt like, oh my goodness, they have turned on me. I've got to reinvent myself. But I want you to listen to something that she says about her grandfather during this clip, which I think is important because when you fast forward, she's going to actually have her grandfather with her at a congressional hearing on hate crimes. And she's not going to say it there, which I would think that would be the place that you would say it. But that's just me. Here we go. Here's Candace.
Stories. This is my history. This is my grandfather who, was raised on a sharecropping farm. He's the one who raised me, who was branded in the face by the KKK. I know.
Did you catch that? Her
Branded
grandfather
in
was
the face?
branded in the face
By the KKK.
by the KKK.
Wow.
Okay. All right. I'll go let her finish.
Okay. And
So basically her final point is, I know what racism is. Okay. Here is Candace Owens at a congressional hearing. I want to say this is in like 2021. Or maybe it's 2019. Maybe this is before the pandemic. And she's sitting with her grandfather, and she brings her grandfather to this hearing on hate crimes. Yeah, this is before 2020. But I want you to listen to how she introduces her grandfather. Here we go.
Here today in front of you all because the person sitting behind me is my 75-year-old grandfather. I've always considered myself to be my grandfather's child, and I mean to say that my sense of humor, my passion, and my work ethic all comes from the man that is sitting behind me. My grandfather grew up on a sharecropping farm in the segregated South. He grew up in an America where words like racism and white nationalism held real meaning under the Democrat Party's Jim Crow laws. My grandfather's first job was given to him at the age of 5 years old, and his job was to lay tobacco out to dry in an attic in the South. My grandfather has picked cotton, and he has also had experiences with a Democrat terrorist organization of that time, the Ku Klux Klan. They would regularly visit his home and they would shoot bullets into it. They had an issue with his father, my great-grandfather.
I zoomed in on that because I was trying to see what a branded face looks like. And maybe it's on the other side. Like maybe we just don't see it because of the angle. But certainly you would imagine that if she wrote down her remarks, she would have written down that my grandfather was branded in the face by the KKK.
Yeah.
She writes that his house was shot up. She writes that they had a problem with her grandfather and had a problem with his father. But no branding in the face. And Pepa is sitting right behind her. So I would imagine that, accuracy is going to be important. But this is the evolution or the becoming that is Candace Owens, right? It's I'm going to tell this one story. It's going to be sensational. I may never repeat it, kind of like how she does on her podcast now. May never repeat it, may never circle back to it, and just will expect people to forget. Just like last clip will show when she was on the Ingram angle. And she's talking about how she's never been doesn't recall racism in her history.
Say what?
But says she knows what real racism is. Says that she was, bullied and on the receiving end of racial slurs and all this stuff in 2005, and then again in 2007, and then again when she tried to start social autopsy. But here she is because she's rising. And this is a part of the reinvention, the rebuilding of Candace Owens. And those things never happened. Listen.
Trump. Right. It was Obama, and Obama did a lot to tear this country apart. I do not remember when I was growing up having all of these race issues, okay? I really don't remember it. And then suddenly towards the end of Obama, we started hearing all of this rhetoric drummed up. It became white versus black all over again. And I say all over again, I shouldn't even say that because when I was alive, this was not an issue. It all became about race. And I really do think that they were laying down the groundwork for Hillary to run because they had already pre-selected her to be the president of the United States.
So she wants to just pivot to her talking point because she's a political pundit. This is her issue. Politics, that's her thing. It's easy. It's low-hanging fruit. It doesn't require any real transformation. You just have to be a really good actress in her mind. But again, man, at a very basic level, you got to remember your lines. If you're acting, you got to remember your lines. I don't remember racism when I was growing up, but the NAACP says yes, you do.
Man.
I mean, there's a settlement. I know it's long since been spent,
Hmm.
but there's a settlement that says, yes, you do. You've got some people that chased you to a whole different political ideology because of racism. So, yes, you do. And I understand, people can be in a moment and maybe it's the bright lights of Fox News and all of that stuff. And like, you're not thinking clearly. But I mean, she says when she was alive, they didn't have her. Sorry, that's not fair. We
She did say
misspeak all
that.
the time. But
when she was alive.
listen, we got to go. If I
Oh,
wanted to be
boy.
petty, I would say, so that's a replacement? Is that an MK Ultra? Like, is that, was that what?
That's not really Candace.
Did you slip on that? Like, what was that when I was alive? Who was speaking? It's like, what day it is. Anyway, I'm grieved by the amount of content that people consume from her. Not because they can't consume things that are like performative, like you want to be entertained, but because there are people who are like staking their everything on this. Like, man, she is the only thing she cares about is figuring out who killed Charlie Kirk. And so we're riding with her to destroy other people in the process because that's what's most important. And so convincing has been Candace Owens that, people who didn't even really like Charlie Kirk are now like, yeah, who killed Charlie? Because it's
Man.
performance.
Wow.
All right, there's more. There's more because this is sort of like the transition year. We haven't even gotten to turning point, picking her up and putting her down.
Why is that?
Well, I have my speculations. But when I was alive. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right, that's it. This podcast has gone way too long. We have to be discerning.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that there are some people who are imposters among us and they're really good at it. They're really, really good at it. Candace Owens is one of those people. She's one of those people. And you can make a choice to see that or not. But it won't be because on this podcast platform, it won't be because you haven't been warned.
Yeah.
All right. When we resist the cultural trends that rival the truth, we remain culture proof. Until next time, Lord willing.
God bless.
Hey, if you like this video and value the content, then go ahead and like the video. You can subscribe to our channel if you want to do that as well. Feel free to comment. We try to read all of your comments and we try to respond to most of them. Of course, if there are too many, then it's hard for us to get to them. But we value interacting with you. So thank you so much for being a part of the Culture Proof community.
Also, click that notification bell. That bell will let you know when a new episode drops.